The number of people coming across the channel on small boats fell by a third last year. The government saw that as a success, but there's been a big debate about why it happened and specifically how much of it was down to the bad weather in 2023. Here's the Home Secretary James Cleverly speaking to Breakfast last month.
So this is nothing to do with the weather. I mean, I know this is a convenient way of overlooking the incredible hard work that our officials have done with their colleagues across Europe. This is not about the weather.
Now, when James Cleverly said that, we asked the Home Office for its figures and they didn't provide them. We have managed, however, to get our hands on them through Freedom of Information requests, and the picture is more complicated. Let me show you this first. These are figures compiled by part of the Home Office, the Border Force, and they come from the Met Office, and they show that the number of days where weather conditions were worst, where hardly anyone was coming across the channel, went up significantly. In 2022, there was 96 days where it was highly unlikely that people would cross the channel. In 2023, it was 147. That's up 50%. It means an extra 51 days, a month and a half, where hardly anyone was able to cross the channel because of the weather. Now, government figures are always complicated. There are lots of different weather categories. There are also fewer days where it was unlikely people would cross. That's basically a few people crossing, but not many. But we've analysed these figures, we've also spoken to experts, and they suggest that they show that the weather did play a role. Let me show you this quote here from Peter Walsh from the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford. As you can see, he says, our data suggests weather is a factor, but not the only factor, and that's important. It doesn't show that this was all down to the weather, but it does suggest that the weather played a role. I also want to show you one final thing, because the big question now is what's happening this year? And the short answer is, so far in 2024, there are more people crossing the channel than there were this time last year. Have a look at these figures. 2023, last year, was 1,180. This year it's gone up again to 1,335. What's interesting with that figure is it's quite similar to 2022. Remember, 2022 was the year that we saw a record high number of people crossing the channel. So look, there's a long way to go in the year, but it does suggest that the picture is a lot more complicated than we heard from the Home Secretary last month. There's a lot of information behind this stuff, and if you want to see more of the figures, they're on the BBC website. The most important thing though is this: the weather does appear to have made it harder to cross the channel last year at certain points. It's likely to have an impact, but we can't be certain about how big that impact was.